Good evening. My name is Wallace Gator Bradley. And first off, I want to say to God be the glory. As you know, I still carry my mask, but I also got my card. Now we're able to come back out within the community. The governor is saying we'll be able to come and have barbecues, and the mayor has opened up the lakefront. And the president is saying by the 4th of July, everyone around the country that has been fully vaccinated and those that want to come and join with them that hasn't been vaccinated but at least wear your mask can come out and have family gatherings. But there's something else that's happening too. We're going to talk about that on the show. There's violence, especially violence of African Americans against African Americans. There's been more mass shootings of African Americans by other African Americans. And we're going to talk about that because there's a lot that we can do as a people. As you know, I always open up my show about all the killing of children that's happening within the city of Chicago. Now, everyone is zeroing in on the city of Chicago. We saw where this documentary was done by an individual from New York about what's happening in Chicago. And where I find it very interesting, I find it perplexing that those outside of Chicago and those within Chicago refuse to accept the documentaries that's being done by producers and directors in Chicago to tell the story of people in Chicago. But that's just my opinion. Still, the message get out. It's getting out that we got to stop senseless shootings and killing of anyone, especially children, women, the elderly, whether they black, white, Hispanic. Well, we as a people got to do what we know we can do, and that is don't aid and assist individuals that's involved in senseless shootings and killing of women. We back it up, of children, women, and the elderly, and of innocent men. We in that. So Amari, let's go to work. If you pick up that gun and you fire that gun, anyone that get harmed from you firing that gun, that's an innocent bystander. We asking the community, ostracize them, push them out, don't let them hide anywhere, don't support them, and let law enforcement do their job. The code is this: if you pick up that gun to solve your problem, I'm not endorsing violence. I'm saying you're violating the code if you discharge that weapon and innocent people get shot or killed, especially a child or an elderly person. And the community must uphold that code.
He got a shoe shine.
The reason that it worked in the 90s, because everyone was a part of it. Kids, women, elderly, was off limits.
You didn't touch him.
Didn't touch them.
By
ostracizing you from the community, pushing you out of the community, not supporting you in the community or protecting you in the community, so that law enforcement can do their job by apprehending you. And the Cook County State's Attorney can do her job by making sure that you get a fair prosecution. This is so that there's no retaliation in the community because you discharge or you fire that weapon at your intended partner.
We all got to come together. Those of you, my name is Wallace Gator Bradley. I'm the urban translator. I'm the president of United Peace Inc. We all got to come together to let it be known that Black lives matter everywhere. Regardless if a police shoot somebody that's black, it means twice as much to our community when someone black is shooting someone black.
With at least 8 children under the age of 10 shot in the city in just 2 weeks, some are asking if that code still carries any weight.
There's something that we got to do.
Gator catches up with some friends on Calumet.
That 1-year-old that got killed.
His conversations of late have focused on kids getting shot. He says the rule still applies.
We as men got to put it down and say, that still exists. It never left.
We all got a responsibility.
We all got a responsibility, man.
But it never left.
I'm going to call out to all the brothers. You know what we do. Put the word on the street that this is no longer tolerated. Me and Holmes work together and we know how it works. We've been able to help individuals turn themselves in of the community, kick them out, but law enforcement to come to rescue. Now is the time. Just like it was a video from Miss Frazier that let everybody know about the awakening of George Floyd. Somebody got a video, or we need to use our video to stop this senseless violence.
And I believe that vengeance belongs to the Lord. And with that, I want to say, to God be the glory. And that's my story.
You know, this morning I received a very important phone call from a Dr. Matt Harrington. And he brought to my attention, I want to read this because he also sent me a text. He says, in Illinois, we have had a mass shooting every weekend, with Chicago having reported over 200 highway shootings with over 4,000 people killed and tens of thousands of people have been wounded just the past decade. Yet we treat the wounded and dead that's reported on the news
I'm finally the king of my own
Monday morning as if it was a sports score and nothing more. He says, shame on us. Do you know where the bullets are coming from? And I told him no. And he said, neither does law enforcement. So I'm asking my viewing audience and my listening audience, join me and the tens of thousands of others who are working together united in peace, purposefully focused on helping to end senseless violence, especially shootings and killings. And let's encourage Governor J.B. Pritzker to help pass House Bill 3088 and support the serialization of ammunition. It's the bullet's DNA. What that mean, Gator? Do you know that every bullet has what you would call a certain marking on it? And you can tell pretty much who made the bullet, who's selling the bullets. And do you know that there's legislation that's trying to be passed in order for the governor to sign it, where every, for lack of a better phrase, arms dealer, whether it's the store in Dalton, whether it's Walmart, or anywhere else that's selling ammunition. I believe in this bill is also showing that revenue can be created behind the sale of those bullets, like 1 cent off each bullet is revenue that can be generated to the state of Illinois to help pay for this legislation and also help the various cities within the state, starting with the counties within the state, to help create funds for Stop the Violence program. We're not talking about the eradication of the Second Amendment. We're just talking about a plan where each bullet and revenue that's drawn from those bullets, instead of creating more tax dollars or more dollars from taxpayers. So I'm encouraging you to talk to your state reps and your state senators and ask them, where do they stand on House Bill 3088? Support it if you're a state rep, and ask your counterpart in the state Senate to support a bill to go with this House bill, and hopefully they will get enough votes within the legislation to get it to the governor's desk to sign this bill. And that's one way to help turn the tide on senseless shootings and killings, by generating funds or revenue for the state to be able to fund various organizations around the state that has programs to help turn the tide against senseless violence, especially shootings and killings, and especially the Black caucus within the Senate, state Senate, and the Black caucus within the state House, and the Hispanic caucus in the Senate, and the Hispanic caucus in the state House, or the Latinx caucus, and the Progressive caucus within the state House and the state Senate, to be in support of that House bill. It would help bring revenue to the state. It won't cost the taxpayers no taxes. And you will be surprised how much a penny from the sale of a bullet can help this state in their pursuit to turn the tide against violence. This is something else that I want to share. They talk about the gang culture. Well, a lot of the shootings are not gang related. Some of them are. Whether it's a clique of 2 to 5 members, is the same thing as a gang. I want you to hear me. A clique. Okay, what do you mean by the clique? Glad you asked. A clique can be where you may have 5 members from 5 different street organizations, and they form a clique based on the block that they're living on. Okay? And that way you have shootings between various cliques that may be 2 or 3 blocks apart. You're still labeled as a gang. And there's legislation that's coming down to hold gangs responsible for the violence. And the community is becoming more and more aware. Because 9 times out of 10 is family members that's a part of the clique. And they're tired of these babies getting killed. The city of Chicago has a challenge called Chicago Works Challenge Initiative or something like that. Call your alderman. Ask your alderman about that. If you have a plan that you feel that can help your community, okay, it's a challenge. You may be able to get close to $1 million grant to help. Everyone is trying to do their part. It takes all of us, okay, working together, uniting in peace, to help aid and assist our city, our townships, our counties, across the state of Illinois and the state of Illinois. We got to help our legislative leaders to put forth legislation that Governor J.B. Pritzker can sign that's going to help get revenue to pay for the program that's needed. With that, let me share this too before I get in trouble. Normally, I would have started off the show and let it be known that a lot of these issues that I'm bringing before my viewing audience is with the help of none other than the chairman of United in Peace, Inc. I'm just the president of United in Peace, Inc. I'm just the host of the Bradley Report. She's the producer and the director of the Bradley Report and this show that I'm bringing forth. And that's none other than my wife, Terry Marsh Bradley. And the technical wherewithal couldn't happen without the support and the direction of Brother Omari from Can TV. And with that, I want to say to God be the glory. That's Gator's story. Brother Omari, could you bring up this piece of where the alderman blames Chicago gang culture?
Got off the phone with Chicago police. No further update on the girl's health at this point. At last word, we were told she was here in critical condition.
If we want our children to be able to grow up, to live, and to be able to thrive, we have to end this infatuation with gang culture, period.
This morning, Alderman Raymond Lopez blaming Chicago gang culture for an attack in his 15th ward last night, which sent a 14-year-old girl to the hospital shot in the head, according to Chicago police.
This young lady and her boyfriend were just walking down the street when 3 gang members approached them and confronted them, and it ended in a shooting.
Surveillance video from the intersection of 48th and Wood appears to show the pair walking with a dog just before shots rang out. According to witnesses, the girl had just left a convenience store when Lopez says the couple came across a group looking to see if they had a gang affiliation. This morning, Chicago police would not confirm or deny that detail, instead telling ABC7 detectives are still investigating. We cannot comment on specifics of open investigations. More surveillance video from the area appears to show 3 people in black approach the intersection before racing to a nearby SUV, driving away.
And this morning, Chicago police say no one is in custody at this point, but Alderman Lopez says he believes the people responsible are a group that he and police have been tracking together for about 3 years now.
You know, that Alderman Lopez, I believe he's in the 15th Ward. He's been steadfast in his pursuit to help eradicate gang violence. He hasn't backed down. He's standing that way, and a lot of aldermen feel that same way. But from what I've seen in the news about the 14-year-old girl, I think it was another young guy, they allegedly had, this the same one, they allegedly had trespassed or breaking and entered someone's residence, and they had those guns in the residence. And I think there was a shootout between law enforcement and the people that were in the residence, which happened to be, I believe, it was a shooting where 14-year-old girl and I think a 12-year-old guy got shot or killed or whatever it is. You know, I think from what the law enforcement said, they gonna come up with a follow-up story. Then I read where a 2-year-old baby found the loaded gun in the house. And I believe that child may have shot themselves. So people, you have a right to bear arms. But lock the arms up in your house. The generation, in my opinion, I'm not knocking or dissing anyone. And I'm speaking as an elder. The way that we were raised, we knew not to go in our parents' bedroom if they had a weapon, let alone touch their weapon. But things have changed. So now the parents of today and the grandparents of today and the great-grandparents of today, if you have a weapon and you got a right to have the weapon, let's lock it up in something. Because the children are watching the TVs and they're seeing a lot of violence on TV. They're seeing violence in their cartoons. Okay? They're seeing problems getting solved with guns. And then the individual who they saw get shot, they see them in another movie and they're alive. So in their mind, it's like, okay, we can shoot the gun and they can get back up. So when I speak about we, us, it takes all of us. I'm not pointing no individuals out. I'm speaking as us and its totality as a whole to help eradicate senseless violence and to stop violence against our children. And it starts with us as great-grandparents, as grandparents, as parents, to help secure the arms within our house so that our children don't get them. Moving forward, I was reading a story the other day where these officers are known officers that's been involved in a lot of police torture of innocent individuals to the point where they confessed to crimes that they didn't commit. And a lot of the crime they confessed to, it was bad state's attorneys, assistant state's attorneys. That was before Kim Foxx got in office. Up under the former mayor, who was a former state's attorney, Daley, former state's attorney, Daley, former state's attorney Devine, former state's attorney Anita Alvarez. And now these officers are trying to, yeah, right there. These officers, thank you, Marty. These officers, they want this young man's, two young men that I got out the penitentiary because of the actions of those bad police officers. The names of Boudreaux and others. They said cops and the ex-prosecutor. Wrongfully prosecution suit must end because Fox merely dropped a 94 rape and murder case against two men because of the misconduct of the police officers. I want you to hear this. I want you to understand me. These are the actions that was done before Kim Foxx became the state's attorney. The actions and the misconduct of those three police officers, their names are well known. Okay, a lot of guys that then came out because of the torture commission that was put together by the state of Illinois, to the point since J.B. Pritzker has been the governor, they have extended the reach of the torture commission to cases that happened after the 90s and to the year 2000, because some of these same officers were involved. And to show you what I'm talking about, you probably saw on the news about Gerald Reed, where Governor J.B. Pritzker gave him a pardon of time considered served, but still allow him to fight while he's on the street because of the action of bad police officers. Okay? They tortured him into a confession. He ended up getting a new trial, and they had to dismiss that confession. That happened February 14th, 2 years ago. The judge that got the case and was supposed to give him a hearing date based off of the judge that gave the order. This judge, his name was Hadley. The special prosecutor was an assistant state's attorney that was Hadley's, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Henley or Hadley was the judge. He was an assistant state's attorney. The special prosecutor, Bob Mylan, was his supervisor. And because of their actions, they was involved in the cover-up of police torture. Then the assistant state's attorney Headley ended up becoming a judge. And the actions of Headley and the special prosecutor, which is Bob Mylan, who was an assistant state's attorney, made a decision to not obey the judge's court order. And they ordered Joel Reed back to Stateville Penitentiary to continue a life sentence. And fast forward, Governor J.B. Pritzker, I want to say hooray, hooray. The individual that's been aiding and assisting Gerald, including his lawyer, Elliot Zinger and Larry Dreyfus, his mother, and a host of others that worked together, united in peace, inclusive of myself. To do an educational program to inform the public. And I don't want to forget this brother that Gerald Reed calls Uncle Frank. You're going to hear a lot about him and the organization that he's with. Was able to put forth an effort to help Gerald Reed to get free. Well, what that got to do with what Kim Foxx is saying, or what they saying about Kim Foxx? Some of these same officers, because of a bad state's attorney, like in this story, a bad assistant state's attorney, a bad assistant state's attorney then, a bad assistant state's attorney that they talk about now, continues to engage in cover-up of police torture, where the city has paid close to $400 or maybe $600 million in settlement because of the actions of bad officers. Brother Omari, could you show the story for me right quick? I appreciate you. It says cops, ex-prosecutor, wrongful prosecution suit must end because Fox merely dropped a 94 rape and murder case against these two men that allegedly that were tortured. Not allegedly, were tortured. A group of Chicago police officers and a Cook County prosecutor has asked a federal judge to cut out a malicious prosecution claim brought against them by two men who claim they were coerced into confessing to a woman's brutal rape and murder. As the cops and the prosecutor say, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx chose to surrender the case and not contest the men's claims to innocence, leaving the cops and the prosecutor exposed to lawsuits. Well, as everyone knows, Kim Foxx and her integrity unit has been eradicating and getting rid of a whole lot of cases because of police misconduct. If she was to prosecute that case, the witnesses she would have to bring forth will be the police officers that got a track record for being involved in misconduct, inclusive of police torture. They got a track record. They're not even good, credible witnesses for the prosecution. On May 24th, attorneys representing the police officers and the prosecutor filed their motion in federal court, asking for a grant of partial summary judgment as they seek to wiggle down the lawsuits brought against them by the lawyers for the plaintiffs. Could you bring it up a little bit, Omari? Right there, right there. The Chicago police officers are identified as John Holleran, I believe I'm pronouncing his name correct, Kenneth Boudreaux, and James O'Brien. Now, James O'Brien was involved with other officers because of their misconduct actions in Gerald Reed's case. And I remember seeing Thomas Kelly's name in the cases, Thomas Benoit's name in cases, and former Cook County Assistant State's Attorney Harold Garfinkel, I think that's his name, have been in the federal court for nearly 4 years, defending themselves against lawsuits brought by Coleman and Fortin, I believe it is. But the wild thing about all this is that city tax dollars that's being paid to private attorneys by the Department of Law for the city. That's another waste of taxpayers' dollars. That's money that they've been wasting paying these lawyers, private attorneys. I call it pinstripe patronage of tens of millions of dollars for cases they know they can't win. So I pray that the judge deny their motion. And I'm going to come and do another story on the motion that they filed with a copy of the response from the lawyers that's representing the complainant. The two individuals that was wrongfully locked up for tens of years. I want to say we reading in the media where they constantly trying to tie Kim Foxx with everything that they think is awful when she's only doing her job as a prosecutor. She's not a police officer. You don't make no arrest. She fight hard to make sure that bad individuals shouldn't be able to get out on bond. And I know this for a fact. When my brother was murdered, and the guy that murdered him got rid of the gun, but he had the gun residue on him. He was an ex-felon. What was he doing with a gun? He had no right to even fire a gun. And he thought he had his lie in order to justify or give the impression like somebody else that came in his place of business and killed my brother. But my brother was alive long enough because Mr. Dunmore had called 911. And when the paramedics got there and the police got there and they pulled my brother out, Mr. Dunmore thought he was dead. And my brother was able to tell the paramedic and to tell the police officer that this man shot him in his back. My brother died doing the surgery. But he gave enough evidence or enough reason for while the paramedics took him and rushed him to the hospital, the police officer that was on the scene took Mr. Dunmore down to the station. And that's how they got the GSR, gunshot residue, off of him. And then they asked, well, where's the gun? Who got rid of the gun? All that's going to come out during the trial through discovery. But a state's attorney asked for the man not to have a bond. So people, it's judges that make the determination of giving an individual bond, not the state's attorney. And for these officers to have the audacity, in my opinion, everybody's entitled to a fair prosecution and a fair trial. But like I say, that's my opinion, to have the audacity. You got a track record for being involved in torturing innocent individuals to confess the crimes that they didn't commit. You can see their names on almost all of the complaints that the Torture Commission gave justification for individuals to get new trials based on the action of these officers. And then for them to say they shouldn't be sued, I say they shouldn't have immunity not to be sued. They should be sued right along with the city. But that's my opinion. So I pray that this judge understand the law and understand the fact that, hey, it's not far-fetched that you guys couldn't be about this nefarious actions that's going on. Because you got a modus operandi that show that you've been involved in this type of action. So I hope the judge deny their motion. And now, before I close out, I want to say this. You know, I've been talking about the McDonald's Don't Be Mac Food national protest. Okay? We're going to get into that, but I want to do this right quick. Thanks, Mara. I appreciate you. Could you bring that up about where Biden delivers his remarks at the Tulsa race massacre? Yeah, that right there. Could you bring that up?
And I say that not as a compliment about me, but to think about it. 100 years, first president be here during that entire time. And in this place, this ground, to acknowledge the truth of what took place here. For much too long, the history of what took place here was told in silence, cloaked in darkness. But just because history is silent, it doesn't mean that it did not take place. And while darkness can hide much, it erases nothing. It erases nothing. Some injustices are so heinous, so horrific, so grievous, they can't be buried, no matter how hard people try. So it is here. Only with truth can come healing and justice and repair. Only with white mob, thousands gathered around the courthouse, black teenagers being held. ready to do it still occurred. Lynch that young man that 75 black men, including black veterans, arrived to stand guard. Words were exchanged, then a scuffle, then a shots fired. Hell was unleashed. Literal hell was unleashed. Through the night and into the morning, the mob terrorized Greenwood, torches, guns, shooting at will. A mob tied a black man by the waist to the back of their truck with his head banging along the pavement as they drove off. A murdered black family draped over the fence of their home outside. An elderly couple knelt by their bed praying to God with their heart and their soul when there was a shot in the back of their head. Private planes dropping explosives. The first and only domestic aerial assault of its kind on an American city, here in Tulsa. As I said in my address to the joint session of Congress, according to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists. That's not me. That's the intelligence community. We can't just choose to learn what we want, not what we should know. We should know the good, the bad, everything. That's what great nations do. They come to terms with their dark. We're a great nation. The only way to build common ground is to truly repair and to rebuild. I come here to help fill the silence, because in silence, wounds deepen.
When searching for your dream home, it's important to figure out what style of home you like. Victorian, cottage.
The most important thing, he let it be known, is that Tulsa wasn't a race riot, it was a massacre. He let it be known that systemic racism is deep. Even to the point of when they attacked the Capitol on January the 6th. And what's important, like I was saying earlier, systemic racism, even in corporations, against African Americans, and maybe against Latinx. But I'm speaking about African Americans. When we see where McDonald's has been eradicating, in my opinion, redlining black franchisees, where there used to be more than 340, they're down now to less than 200, I think maybe 180 some franchisees, while McDonald's has added nearly 10,000 more franchises. Hear me. When you see those commercials and you think McDonald's is the one that's paying for the commercials during Black History, but you see B in front of McDonald's Operation Association. That would be Black McDonald Operators Association that's paying for those commercials, not McDonald's. When you see where this brother Byron sued McDonald's for $10 billion because of discriminatory actions from McDonald's, when you hear employees of McDonald's suing McDonald's for discriminatory tactics. They had an African American man that was the CEO of McDonald's. While he was there, it was 47 African Americans in executive positions. When they forced this man to resign because he refused to be about their plan to eradicate franchises, African American franchisees, employees, especially those on the executive level. They brought in another guy, a white guy, I guess he's from London or somewhere, and they ended up with 7, maybe 4 now, African American executives. But the black franchises has been going down. Systemic racism. You got the Bird brothers, and you got about 77 former franchisees that has filed a suit, it's 2 separate suits against McDonald's to help eradicate systemic racism within McDonald's. Not to destroy McDonald's. Just be fair. Because if 30% of your revenue is coming from African Americans, why do they hate African Americans? When they help to build America. When they go and get the money to try to get the franchises to get a piece of the American pie. And what I'm telling you, our viewing audience, when you keep hearing it on the radio stations about the Black Information Network that's going to give you all the black news or news that affect us as a people, and you don't hear them mentioning nothing about McDonald's, because McDonald's is part ownership of the Black Information Network. They agreed. It's to the point they don't care nothing about the black media. So they got you thinking that the Black Information Network is black media. No, it's not. Because if it was, you would know about the suits. You would know about the discrimination that they're doing. And you would know. And I'm telling you, so you do know. The letters have been written to the Congressional Black Caucus and members of the Congressional Black Caucus, especially the congressman from Tennessee, has written a letter to Maxine Waters, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, that's over the Financial Services Committee, to have a congressional hearing before her committee dealing with systemic racism, corporate systemic racism. And they're asking the Joint Committee, with there's the representatives and the Senate that's a part of a joint committee, to bring that before their committee, which has the Senator Warnock Raphael from Atlanta, that's on that committee, which is a part of the banking committee, to bring, hopefully, McDonald's, their CEO, their chairman of the board of McDonald's, and the only African American board member of McDonald's, to come and explain, and then have individuals that got verifiable documented facts of what McDonald's is doing, and then hold them accountable. Don't just celebrate the 100 years of the Tulsa massacre, and don't hold them corporations responsible. Just like the people was able to hold corporations responsible for backing those Republicans in Georgia that's trying to suppress the African American vote. And I'm publicly asking Senator Dick Durbin and U.S. Senators Dick Durbin and U.S. Senators Duckworth to join in this movement. Don't be McFooled, FOOLED, National Peaceful Educational Protest against McDonald's corporate systemic racism. To ask the Senatorial Committee to have a hearing, to be in support of Congresswoman Maxine Waters' committee, to have a hearing, and I'm asking all the Democratic congressmen in Illinois to demand a hearing, because McDonald's corporate office is here in the city of Chicago, the county of Cook, and the state of Illinois. These are things that you can do right now. Just like Biden came, and I don't believe there's been no other president that has been to Tulsa within 100 years. He came and let it be known that it wasn't just no riot. It was a massacre. And they need to find the funds to help rebuild Tulsa for the residents, especially the survivors and the family members of the survivors of Tulsa who were murdered and their land was taken from them. That's reparations that you can understand, you can put a dollar sign to it, and you can do it. Before they make the move to deal with the gentrification like they did in Harlem. And we got history and we need to tell it. Telephone, telegram, tell a Negro so they can tell so we can tell our kids. And another thing that I've been pushing. With this COVID, everybody able to come out and barbecue. Don't forget this fact, especially during this political season. To demand your state representatives and your state senators, black, white, and Latinx, and progressives, to ask their governor to order the Illinois Department a public health director who he appointed to immediately implement the Nursing Home Care Act, Section 8, against the nursing homes that aren't in compliance. Because had he implemented that a year ago, more than a year ago, I'm of the opinion that a lot of lives could have been saved. You reading about it in the paper. It ain't just the veterans nursing home where at least they were wise enough to sue the state. Forget the fact that it was a Republican state senator that had a hearing and it all came out, and she subpoenaed members of J.B. Pritzker's administration to address those concerns. And then I want to applaud State Representative Ford for reaching out to Loretta Brady, the daughter of Lottie Smith, to be able to give her testimony for it to become a part of a meeting, an executive meeting that was dealing with health issues before the session closed out. What we got to do? Don't just vote. Hold the individual that you vote for accountable. Just like the people hold me accountable for convincing them to vote for Governor J.B. Pritzker. I support J.B. Pritzker. But he got to be accountable for what he do. And with that, I want to say, to God be the glory. This is my story, and it's yours too. Hold individuals accountable. Thank you.